Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. This is Councilor McBride. I'd like to call this meeting in order, Property Reuse Committee. It is Wednesday, June 15th at 5:33. I'll do a roll call. I see Councilor Bordelon present. And I also see Councilor Westervelt present. So that means all three members of the current committee are here. The first order of business on our agenda is public comment. So we'll move forward with public comment. Anyone in the online currently that would like to speak?
I would.
Okay, please go ahead. Just get your name and address for the record.
First, can I just tell you that Representative Gauthier is trying to get back in. She left the meeting and she's trying to get back in.
Okay, I do see her saying she would like to speak, so
Okay,
we'll go to her after yourself.
okay, thank you. Roseanne Katowski, 24 Ann Avenue. And I forwarded these comments to all three of you this afternoon, so you would have them for the record. Thank you for the work the committee has done to date and for the opportunity to comment regarding the property reuse evaluation process. I have a few questions, comments, and suggestions for you to consider. In the goals section of the document, would you consider adding number 6, transparency and public inclusion? In decision on disposition of town-owned property process, in number 1, thank you for including that all such meetings will be open to the public. In number 2, would you consider adding something that allows the public to be informed of what is happening at this stage of the process? In number 4, regarding the committee recommendation, will this be transparent and included in the town council agenda packet, basically, or will it go to executive session? In the disposition of town-owned property process, number 1, in the statement, the RFP will be shared with the Planning and Zoning Commission and the RTM for comment prior to its release. I would like to confirm that this means that the RFP documents will be included in the agenda packets for both the Planning and Zoning Commission and the RTM so the public can be informed. In disposition of non-town owned property process, number 3, again, thank you for adding all such meetings will be open to the public. Some other items to consider that could be included in the process to make it transparent and involve the public. The selection committee should not include any members of the town council, EDC, or RTM that have an appearance of a conflict of interest. The obvious exclusion should be realtors as well as business owners that would benefit from a specific development deal. Also, regarding the selection committee, the members' input and ranking of the RFPs should not be anonymous. There should not be information from the selection. There should not be information coming from the selection committee noting person 1, person 2, etc. Selection committee members' names should be attached to whatever their support or opposition is for each developer or development. The selection committee members are elected by or paid by the public, and there should be transparency and accountability for their actions. I support all the comments sent to the committee by Ken and Janet Mayer and would like to highlight a few. No development proposal should be considered that is in conflict with the Groton Plan of Conservation and Development. Incomplete packages should not be accepted and must be returned until all information is provided. Financial analysis must be conducted by independent agencies and town staff. I would like to add to that financial town staff. Another important point they made is that, quote, an ethical planning and development department should be careful not to take the path of least resistance and target those with the least resources to oppose the development. I think this is critical for you to consider because, as we all know, the Mystic Oral School mega development disaster would never have been proposed for the Butler School property. 2 last points. One important question for the committee to ask: why has developer information been valued more by town staff than the residents' right to know what is happening in their communities. And last, the town council needs to govern the town of Groton with the attitude that the residents of Groton are more invested in the development of our community than town staff. Thank you for the opportunity to comment. I am looking forward to the committee's work to develop an RFP process that is transparent and includes the public. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Roseanne. I am gonna, I'll move you out and I'll move in. There's some other individuals that would like to speak. Thank you. I'm gonna move in, Representative Gothier.
Hi, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity to address the committee. I'd like to echo some of Roseanne's comments about appreciating the transparency, the links that it's going to. I would like to speak a little bit about the first public hearing that's included in this policy, specifically about my concerns that such public hearing would be just another box for staff to check before they moved on with whatever they planned on doing anyways, and that the current sort of MO of how these, well, they aren't calling them public hearings, they're calling them workshops. The way they go with these consultants they bring in and these poster boards with the stickers, my concern is that not enough is being done to ensure that the individuals who show up to speak on whatever property or development being proposed are actually representative of the neighborhood that would be most impacted by the proposed development. And obviously anything that the town does has a town-wide impact. However, I'd really urge the committee to think of ways to ensure that whatever outreach is done prior to the RFP being developed, the inputs that are coming in from the community are representative of those who would be most immediately impacted by the sale or the development of the property. And so that it's not just simply folks who want A, B, or C, and this is the most available property, but really, what does the neighborhood need? What's it lacking? And what could it benefit from? How is life going to change for the individuals who live there, either positively or negatively? And so, as you move forward, I'd really urge the committee to think about fleshing out some of this to ensure that it doesn't become just one more box to check as staff moves through the process. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comments. I have a Mary Ellen Furlong. I'm going to put her up next. Welcome.
Thank you. Actually, I'm Jim Furlong, Mary Ellen's husband. I use her machine. I have a very short suggestion to make. I think this is a very good idea, this committee. I worry that the committee, however, could be deluged by pressures from the town's development office to sell more properties than really are proper. One of the committee's tasks should be to keep a control on the pace of sales, leaving something for the future. A town can get oversold. I lived in Rye, New York prior to moving here 23 years ago. During that time, the town, which was very tightly sold, faced pressures to reopen a closed school, which fortunately had not been sold, and to place a ball field on the grounds of that were occupied by John Jay Historic Park, because there was little space left for athletic fields. So I'd say you want to leave room for the future. Do you have as yet a list of items that that will come before you? Is there a quickening flow of demand for to sell? That's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Jim, for your comments. I am going to enter Hal Robb. He's next on the list. Welcome.
Welcome. I guess I have a lot of comments that I would like to forward to you. I'm catching up here a little bit. I'm a little bit behind the curve, but I do have a couple that I'd like to share sort of off the top of my head. I guess I agree in part with most of what everybody has said, and maybe these sort of reflect what's already been identified. I guess under the decision on disposition of town-owned property process, the very first one says the town manager will establish a town-owned property evaluation committee. And I guess I'm a little bit of a cynic, similar to Roseanne from the Mystic Oral School property. And I'd kind of like to see the town council be the one to establish the town-owned property evaluation committee. And part of that is it meets from time to time. And I guess it would be nice to define what time to time is, so it's not sort of left to the vagaries of whoever might be interested in pushing a piece of property. That if there's a regular schedule for meeting of this organization, I think that would be good. And sort of in agreement with what Jim was just talking about, I'm left with a question of who can suggest a property for disposal. In your purpose paragraph, you say, which is unused or underutilized town-owned property. It's kind of a vague thing. Who would define what underutilized is? And is somebody in a hurry to dump a piece of property because I think it's going to make them look good, when in fact, maybe we should have been holding on to it because there might have been a use downstream that the town might have appreciated. One of my other comments is down number 3 under decision on disposition of town-owned property process. Number 3 says consult with the town attorney concerning title constraints. And it goes on to describe a couple other things. And I would think that maybe independent of anything about dumping a piece of town property, shouldn't the town attorney be assigned the job of going to figure out what that status is for all the town property ahead of time? I mean, we should know whether we have a problem with anything that we own already as a town. And so maybe that should come out of this and be an independent assignment to the town attorney and go take care of that right now, rather than waiting until somebody wants to move a piece of property. It's on the back side of my piece of paper, but under disposition of town-owned property process, there's a lot of good words in there about how we should be checking on the background of people that are responding to an RFP. One of the things that I thought was pretty disappointing, even now with the Blue Lotus Group and Respler before that, there's no evidence that they've really ever managed the project like they're trying to bid on or they're trying to establish. I'd like to see an additional statement in there that says, if you're bidding on something for this proposal, tell me what you've done in the past that recommends you, or it can be used as a reference from some other town or organization that says you're already capable of doing this work. I don't think we want to ever award an RFP to somebody who's never done the work in the first place, because that just saddles us with even more of a problem maybe in the end. I guess 2 other things, and it's on the disposition. Well, actually, one of them's on the disposition of non-town owned property process. It appears to me items 2 and 3 are really rehashing what was in the disposition of town owned property. And I would recommend that you refer back to what you say in the town owned property, because if you make a change to one of them, you have to make sure you make a change to the other one, and having duplicates of it is just an awkward administrative nightmare. Have it in one place and then point to it if you want to use it in the non-town owned property process. And I guess my last quick comment is you ought to have a revision to this and a statement about who's authorized or who approves it and how do you go about changing it. and who approves those changes. That little mechanism is important to catch now if you're going to publish this as a town document going forward. And again, I have a couple other comments, and I guess what I'd like to do is write them up and I'll send them to you. And so my question is, do I send them to all three of you counselors? Is that how I do that, to your Town of Groton email addresses?
Yes, that's fine. That would work great.
Okay, very good. Thanks very much. I appreciate it.
Okay.
I don't know if I gave my name and address, but it's Hal Robb and I'm at 7 Hancock Drive in Mystic.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I believe that's all we currently have for speakers. We'll move forward on the agenda. I'm not sure, I don't have on the agenda response to public comment, but I'll probably add that for next time. I'm not sure if any counselors want to respond to some of those comments. I'm just going to make a couple things. There was mention of transparency. I think that's what this committee's one of the main goals is, to make sure we are transparent and getting everyone's thoughts. That's why we're having, 2 meetings a month to get thoughts and opinions from the public. We want to make sure proper outreach is completed. Regarding keeping a list, we did bring that up at the last meeting. Some of my comments were that we should start off with a list of open properties. So we are looking to move that forward, because that is a good starting point, I think. And just to back up, this committee right now at the current point is really just trying to get as much information as everyone between us, the 3 committee members, as well as the other residents. So we're just in the fact finding, not really fact finding, but trying to get comments from residents. So what we're trying to do is get out and about and make sure everybody's aware of this committee to provide comments. That's what we're doing, over the next few weeks. And then I think we'll talk more about what we'll do next, get the committee's involvement. Regarding the revision, thanks for the comments on the revision. We will certainly do that. And this document, when and if we do make changes, we will make sure that all the changes that we propose are different than what was originally drafted up. That's really all I have for the comments. We'll get into some more detail later. Not sure if Councilor Bordelon or Councilor Westervelt has any comments with regards to some of the residents' questions and comments.
Yeah, I don't mind going. No, first and foremost, I think this is great. I think this is how I'm really excited to see the public comment section on here, which is something at our first meeting that we agreed upon. And it's great to have feedback from the community in real time. And I encourage more people to come out and bring your comments. The draft that we have is something that was given to us. So as Councilor McBride stated, we are working through that document and looking at ways that we can add and subtract things in there. So the more that the public wants to be a part of it, and for me personally, just because it is the end of a long work day for most of us, if you do have any public comments and you're able to send any of just your bullet points in an email, it helps me the after hour time when I have a chance to come back and revisit this to make sure I didn't miss anything. So I do appreciate anyone that could email them. And I just really appreciate the thought about the land and the process in which we want to be careful about how much we're using, and as well as what is our plan and what properties are listed out. That was something definitely of a concern of mine as we were recycling all of the old school buildings. And, we should have a projected plan 5-10 years out, ready to know what we're going to do. So a lot of great ideas here, and I appreciate everybody for coming out, and it's definitely an important part of this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Westervelt, do you have any comments with regards to citizen comments?
I'll just, without restating what Councilor Bordelon just said, I'm very thankful for the people who are giving their inputs. I know there's a lot of good comments that have come out, and I appreciate folks stepping up and offering those suggestions. And I believe we're on a good track to see this through. Thank you. And sorry about my audio cutting in and out. I didn't get to hear everything because I'm still kind of commuting, but thank you.
Great. The good news is it's recorded, so everybody can rewatch it. So we're good to go. Okay, thanks. Next up is communications. I am going to read communications. And I think I did receive several emails. I'm going to read them because, again, I think one of the purposes of this committee and being recorded is other people can listen. So although we do receive emails, I think it's important I read it into the records. That way viewers who would like to review this later has that. So I'll try to read somewhat quickly. This is a email from Dick Voyer. It seems to me that every time we encounter a situation where the rubber meets the road, we discover another glitch in the system. Example, data centers, Respler, MEC, STRs. Maybe this would be a good time to bring in a team of forensic accountants and time management specialists to review all policies and practices of Groton government, to identify problem areas and to suggest solutions. To that end, you might track down a copy of capital letters Metro Patterns that was published in 2003 and included some comments regarding Groton. And maybe it would be helpful for the town manager to identify the business entities that have expressed an interest in opening their doors in Groton. Doing so might lead to a broad view of how to repurpose vacant buildings in terms of activities. And maybe it's time to consolidate functions under a single roof, example, education, parks and recreation, the annex, Perens, Fitz Junior High School, Claude Chester School, and Perens. You enjoy a swell day yourself. Again, that was from Dick Voyer. Ken Mayer, or Meyer, M-A-Y-E-R. Dear Chairman McBride and Reuse Committee members, thank you so much for volunteering to sit on this important committee. We are both members of the Mystic Earl School and have concerns about the town's RFP process. We thought it might be helpful to send our input to you, so we are sending some bullet points for you to consider. Reuse of properties that may require any zoning change or developments that require TIF or other tax incentive structures should require a special RFP process. Public outreach, input, hearings, walking neighborhoods that are most impacted, handout pamphlets, etc., should take place prior to RFP proposal submissions in order to determine appropriate uses for the properties. No development proposal should be considered that is in conflict with the Groton POCD. This must be determined prior to selecting a developer. Knowing upfront assists developers and avoids wasting valuable time, resources, or possible future litigation. All RFP submissions must require the same information, and all information must be scanned into a complete document in order of the checklist. This will avoid questions, avoid missteps, and build trust. For instance, we cannot help but wonder why Respler's anti-kickback and collusion documents were missing in all the initial scan when other developers included them. Incomplete packages should not be accepted and must be returned until all information is provided. All RFPs should be made in a public and timely manner and easily accessible on the Groton website. Time should be allocated to discuss specifics of the plans. If any zoning change, significant environmental impacts, or TIF are being considered, complete long-term impacts and financial analysis must be conducted by independent agencies and staff. If a project is not specifically listed in the Groton zoning regulations, the zoning commission must review the use to determine whether it is allowed and how it is to fit into the regulations. Example, is a data center telecommunications, or is it something else based on other factors such as energy usage, environmental impacts, etc. I have a letter here from Roseanne Kotowski, but she did read this letter previously, so I won't reread that letter. It's already in the record. I also received correspondence from John Goodrich. Hi, David. I hear that there will be a citizen board appointed to this committee that you chair. I would like to join when that happens. Please let me know. Thank you, John Goodrich. Okay, those are that's the correspondence that I received. I'm not sure if any other counselors have received any other correspondence.
That looks like pretty much all that I have as well. Unless something came in the last couple hours, I wouldn't have seen it.
Okay, I'll assume Councilor Westervelt's all set as well. The next order of business is the approval of the minutes. The June 1st, 2022 special meeting minutes. Has everybody had an opportunity to review that? That was in the agenda package. If there's any comments or questions, please provide now, or if not, I'd like to entertain, if one would like to entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll motion to approve.
Motion has been
I'll
made.
second.
Motion has been made by Councilor Bordelon, seconded by Councilor Westervelt. Any discussion on the minutes? All in favor of the minutes as presented?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries 3-0. Next item on the business is the town-owned property reuse evaluation process. So this is our third meeting, and as I suggested earlier, we're really in the gathering stage of trying to get as much information. But I think it's important we continue to review review comments from everyone, review comments internally ourselves that we've made. I know we did provide some comments at the last meeting, some initial thoughts. And then we want to incorporate the committee members' comments. And I know we talked at the last two meetings about receiving other municipality policies, comments, and so forth. And I also want to discuss the committee makeup, but I'm going to move to that, make that a second item of business in terms of the committee makeup on how we go about forming the committee. But I just want to have some open discussion. My general thought here. And
Excuse me, Chair, I just want to let Councilor Westervelt know that his mic is on. Councilor Westervelt, your mic is on, if you were not aware.
Okay, thank you. Trying to keep the ambient noise down. Sorry, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I just like to have a general discussion with the three of us now in terms of the plan and how to move this forward. What I was envisioning was we continue to review comments from citizens. We create the atmosphere where people know we're meeting twice a month. They can come out and speak. We're going to provide comments. We're going to edit the document. I think we spoke last meeting about the three of us will make our own comments on the document and share that amongst ourselves. And what I'd like to do is maybe share one document, make our own comments, maybe different color code for each one of our three comments, incorporate other comments that citizens are providing in the document. So we'll have this one exhaustive document that's going to have a lot of comments, not necessarily all the comments we all agree on, but at least it's a gathering of all the comments that have been made in this document. And then what I'd like to propose, and I just want to hear your thoughts on this, is that we create a working document, an actual working meeting where we go through it and discuss that, what I would kind of call the draft finalized documents of everyone's comments. And maybe we would do that, like the end of July or so, after we received all comments and we've incorporated our own comments. So I kind of open it up to the floor to get your thoughts on how you'd like to proceed. That was my initial thought, but again, I'm subject to make any changes that we deem appropriate.
I think that's a great idea. I think at the first meeting, I was talking about that, opening up the shared document, and it's great because you can load everything in and use color, coordination with it. And it really, once again, I think if we're going to be part of a working group, I think it's important that all voices are added. And in the end, we may pick and choose how our final draft may look, but we should show the public, where the working document came from, and to have all those comments in there. And then what we could vote in and agree upon at the end is, shows the workability of the document. And then the consideration that the document, once it's done here, will go towards to the council, and things might be removed or taken out there. So it's great to have the original document, because there might be some comments that people are using that are exactly the same as that we had, that we didn't vote into our final document. So it would save a lot of time. And I think it should be like an appendix to what we vote in. So I think that's a great process. And I think it's important to let the public be a part of that. So I like that part of adding those comments in as well. And it allows people to have something to refer to as we work through this. So I can appreciate that.
Thanks, Councilor Westervelt. Any thoughts on how you envision the process moving forward? Not sure if he's available. You are on mute if you are speaking, Councilor. I'm not sure if you are or not.
I heard most of what, sorry about that. I heard
Okay.
most of what Councilor Bordelon said, and I agree with everything. And I think that your ideas for how to proceed forward with this are really good, and I look forward to continuing it.
Okay, so maybe we'll come up with some draft thoughts. So I know, Portia, you shared some comments via email today. We can go through those. I had some comments from the last meeting I'll just touch upon briefly again. Not sure if Councilor Westervelt has any comments, but we'll get to that. But I guess I want to back up to a plan. Does it make sense to let the community know that we're going to move forward with this plan? And in the agenda package, there was the meeting calendar put out for this committee, and it's the first and third Wednesday of every month. I'm thinking, if you're in agreement, maybe selecting a couple dates where we can propose this meeting will be a meeting at let's say the senior center, and we'll be live going through the document. Ideally, I would think we'd have that vetted draft document out to the public in the agenda meeting before we host that. I don't know if you want to call it a forum or meeting, whatever you want to call it, but I'd like to kind of earmark a date or maybe two dates that we let the community know we're going to have a live event where people can come out and comment on the document that we put together as of a certain date. it's obviously fluid and subject to change, but I'd like to kind of get that out there now. So I'm looking forward to some thoughts. Do you think, is July 20th too soon for that? Should we do something in the middle of August and kind of set a date in stone? So kind of, sets us a date, and then we can work backwards to try to get this document as fully vetted as possible. I know summer's kind of a crazy time, but it's also a good time because hopefully some of us have some downtime to get some things done. So my thought was to set a date. So I don't know if August 17th is a good date. Is that too far away or is that too close? But I'd like to hear your thoughts on if that's, on the date to have this event.
So my thought is, I think we had a few good working sessions where we really do have, the one thing about the virtual that's nice is we have that shareable screen and folks can zoom in and see, live action, changes and edits. So I do think we need to allow ourselves, several meetings for at least that. And also that will allow for some more opportunity for public comment. But I do think that we could try to narrow down a day because in person, we won't have the projection and the screen availability necessarily. So, but
Sure.
at least we should at least have printouts that people can, that will be a part of the agenda that they can review before the meeting. So that would be great. But yeah, I mean, I could see, one of our first picks at this, I think it's good as we do this to keep ourselves accountable. And it's good to set some type of goals within your makeup here. And so, yeah, I don't know that if July 20th, we're necessarily going to be ready if you guys want to go that fast. I think there's a lot to this document. And I just fear going, July 20th might be a little too soon. I personally might be more comfortable with August as our first breakout and then looking at our final, some thereafter. But I'm open to suggestions. And I think any open transparency is good process in government for me. So I'm willing to do it whenever. But I do think we need a few dates where we can really start to dig into this document.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Westerville, you think the 17th or?
I think August would be better because I don't think that we'll have enough information to move forward before that. Right now, without being able to look at a calendar, I think August 17th would probably work. So as long as we can make that, open as much as possible.
Okay, so we'll set the 17th as a draft date for when we'll have the first kind of kickoff live meeting to go through it. But I think points well taken. We'll continue to work through this, get public comments, and maybe, Portia, as you indicated, some working sessions. Maybe we do the 20th and the 3rd as two working sessions where we're live on screen, because by the 20th, between your comments, Scott's comments, my comments, and resident comments, we could probably have a good document out in advance of the July 20th meeting, and then have the July 20th meeting be a working Zoom meeting, as well as the 3rd, if that's necessary. Does that sound like a plan?
I apologize, you cut out on me for a minute. So my understanding is that we're going to have our first in-person meeting August 17th, where folks will have a draft document that we've comprised that we're kind of still working on, but it's the first kind of showing. You're thinking the 20th as a working meeting, is that what I heard? July 20th?
Yes, if you think that date works.
Okay. All right.
It'll be similar to these meetings where we'll still have public comment, but it's just going to be a working meeting as you indicated on the screen.
Yeah. All right. Is there any reason we can't, what's the date today? The 6th, is there any reason we can't have the screen up already there?
No, not at all. We just need to make sure all of our comments are incorporated into that document by the 6th. And I would like to have it out to the public before the 6th so they see it.
Yeah.
I guess if it's a working session, it's not as critical, but no, we can.
So I guess what I envisioned, or maybe I'll just kind of, so I just sent out, I know the public can't see, but I sent out my additions to the document and I added it in purple. Mm-hmm. So I don't have the time to just sit. I want to do my due diligence. So I don't want to pound this out in 1 week. So as every week that I touch this document on my free time, which is not a lot, I'm adding to it. So what I sent out already is not all of my comments. So I think it would be important if counselors already have some stuff that's already written, we start working that right away. It will save us time on the back end. So I think we don't waste the time and we go with June 15th, because I'm probably going to have another 30 edits by the time I'm done with this. So this is just what I did in the last, 2 days, or well, I finalized it in the last 2 days, but these are the changes I had seen over the last several weeks that I started implementing, but I'm not near done. So there's a way that we could already start uploading what some people already have, because what we might find is there's some similarities, and then we don't have to do double the work, right? We can just be like, oh, that line's actually the same, and, kind of, I don't know, that's my thought. I think we start working it right away.
No, I'm fine with that. And I, like I said, at the last meeting, I presented similar to what you have. I had brought up on the screen some of the comments I had as well. I just want to make sure we're, how we're going to do. We're going to make sure we're working on the same document, so we're not duplicating. But we can figure that out. Yeah. So I mean, why don't we set July 6th as a goal? And if things fall apart, we'll have to change gears. But I'm okay with July 6th. So Councilor Westphal, you're in agreement with that? I know you had mentioned you had some time off on at some point. Councilor Westerville, are you available?
Sorry, I thought I was talking. Sorry. Yes, I think July 6th would be good. I'm just now getting home. I don't really have anything in front of me to be able to look at. So, but yes, I believe the 6th will be good.
I mean, it is possible too that, we, if someone is not ready yet, we just load, like, as I stated, what we have. I don't know. I just think any forward progression would be, movement would be great.
Yeah, nope, I think we're all in agreement. So I think from here on out, every meeting, we're going to bring up the document that we have. Hopefully get it out to the public prior to the meeting, have it on the agenda, and work through the document in this sense, in this part of the agenda. So, all right, good.
Councilor McBride, also another thought, if I may.
Sure.
We could do a document share between the three of us, and that way all the work is not put one person. I even we do it with my son when he writes papers. We say share the document with us so we can go in and start showing him edits and stuff, helping him through the document. And we could all have a live document and say, I pick purple, you pick blue, Scott picks green. And whenever we're free, we just start loading our stuff in.
Yeah, no, I
mean,
completely agree. That's kind of what I was envisioning. Different colors.
Yeah.
So, I think we'll add a different color to incorporate resident comments as well. With maybe a
but if we did it as a shared document, in our off time, we all would be putting it in randomly. You know what I mean?
Agree. Now,
So
I would agree.
Because I have downtime at lunch and I could be loading some of this in, to take we all have jobs on top of this. So to take some of the pressure off of you, if we do a three-way share, and then at the end, when you come to the meeting here, we just upload it and you can say, oh, here's some more additions that Council Bordelon put in, looks like. And it would allow people, if they have to be away that day,
no, I think that's.
I don't know how comfortable you guys are with the shared documents or not. If people aren't comfortable with that, we can just submit to the chair, and then he can formulate and put them up. But I'm willing to help input my stuff into the document.
No, I think that's a great idea. I think we're all in agreement. So let's kick that off. Let's put a shared document out there. If you want to start it off, Councilor Bordelon, with your comments, since you already done that, and then I'll just add mine into the document once you post it out there. And,
I think that's a good idea, and I am comfortable using shared documents, so I think that'll be a plus. Thank you.
My only question for FOI purposes now, I would have to ask, would we do that through our town email? I would have to look and see. That's my only question, but I can look. We can, unless you guys know.
I don't know the answer to that.
I don't either. I just thought of that.
Yeah, I can reach out to John after this, and I'll CC everyone on it. I mean, either way, if we can't, we'll figure it out. But let's move forward with planning on sharing the documents. All right. So I think I'm just going to quickly mention, I discussed some of this last time. I'm going to add these in the document, so I'm not going to spend too much time. But I do think some of my comments are: should the committee begin with a list of all town-owned property with some timeframes regarding when such decisions are made, with financial ramifications for waiting too long if decisions are not made? maybe an Excel spreadsheet listing the properties, the size of the property, the current condition of the property, have some pictures included, the cost to demolish if that's a choice, various other potential uses that are being considered, cost ranges for the various options, grand list values, estimates, if it's added to the tax rolls, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm thinking, again, a large spreadsheet with all the properties listed, with all that data included, that this group reviews on a regular basis. And I also think it should be updated every quarter. And what I'd like to do is maybe start it as part of this reuse process, so we can begin to flush it out to see if it makes sense. So I'll reach out and see if we can do that at one of these next meetings. I also had a comment that on the decision of the disposition of town-owned properties, I believe we started this process with Claude Chester with the public vision session, so we should include that as the initial step. I also have a comment: should the town consider a monthly community forum on town-owned properties where residents can go when desired and when they are aware that every second Wednesday of the month, as an example, this meeting will occur where they can get updates on where the town stands. Because I see this process that we're starting, I can see it, going into other areas and continuing, maybe not as part of this committee, but I think it should be a monthly or a quarterly process that the public is involved in all of these matters regarding reusing town property. And I think if we start the ball rolling now, get the community involved in knowing the transparency, I think it can continue. We can just roll this forward, whether it's not this committee or another committee, but at least the public is aware of all of the matters pertaining to public property. It will also ensure we won't have we didn't know, which we hear a lot. We weren't told, we weren't informed. I think if we make it a known amount every month or every quarter, it will help to ensure that everybody's aware. We'll also increase collaboration, communication, and transparency, obviously. I also think I attended the Economic Development Commission meeting, I think maybe 2 weeks ago. And there was some really good discussion at that meeting, probably the best Economic Development Commission meeting I've ever attended. And it was just really good dialogue and involvement on transparency and accountability and collaboration. And I think we want to involve them in this process. I'm not sure where, but I think the EDC should be part of this process. Number 4 is where I believe a lot of the attention needs to be focused on all financial and non-financial ramifications of the decisions. There should be a long-term cash flow that details out the revenues and the expenses associated with all of the various potential proposals of the property. And I know I've mentioned this at council on a referral. We should have a long-term cash flow plan for the council, but I think we should have one pertaining to these properties as well, because with every decision that we make, there's revenues and expenses associated with it. I think those should be spelled out in that spreadsheet, in that particular focal point for each property. And those were my introductory comments. I just wanted to share them with everybody. I know Portia, you had some comments. If you're interested in sharing those now, that would be great. Portia, you're on mute.
Sorry. Yeah, since we're going to put it all into a document, I'll just kind of summarize a little bit.
Okay.
So under what was here, because we're not able to load anything tonight, right?
I can put it up if you want. It's up,
Yeah.
up to you.
Yeah, if you're able to, that'd be great.
Yep, let me.
And again, this is just a starting point. This is by no means my final. This is my first read through. And as we sit here tonight, I'm seeing more, and definitely based on some of the public comments. So
Yeah, I think we're just starting slowly. This is going to take a long time. So just start the ball moving. All right. Is that up on the screen?
Yeah.
Is that good?
I don't know if everybody else can see it per se. I think if we get rid of the box of our faces, we're able to just make it the shareable screen.
How would I do that?
Sorry. Hold on one second.
I mean, I can have you drive. You want to do this?
I think if you hit the view options, that's the best way. Unfortunately, on the computer that I logged into, I wasn't knowing I'd have the credentials to share, so not able to from my area. If you hit the view options up in the right, I don't know what your screen looks like. It's all right. I mean, no worries if we can't tonight. We'll figure it out before but I think it's under view. And you can get rid of the video boxes and just make the screen.
Stop video? Is that, I don't think that's gonna be it.
No. It's all right. I'll just start from the top. So under the goals, it says the goals of this process. So far, what I added was I added number 1 through 5. And what I added here that was different is promotes resiliency and sustainability. That definitely is something that our town has talked about in great length. We've made, the plan in place to make sure we were being more, sensitive to resiliency and sustainability. So I think that should be part of our goal when we're looking at property. So that was number 1, and then it just follows what was there. There's 2, enhance the quality, that was already written. 3, I put enhance or preserve the character. I just changed the wording there a little bit. Disposition of the property. Just so you guys know, instead of rewriting town-owned property reuse evaluation process, I've been calling it TOPE, which is TOPE for short for, town-owned property evaluation. So that's kind of what I'm using to kind of shorten up my wording in here because it gets to be a little lengthy. So I just added in here, all such meetings shall be open to the public with a standing agenda item allowing the public to comment and subject to all regular FOI requirements. I also, have notes here. I did not type it into this document, but the same section where it says under 1, from time to time to review town-owned property. We need to kind of put a hard time on that. That's so vague. And I think we could end up losing a lot of time leaving that open like that. Under number 2, I lettered it A through H, and I added H in here. Submit with Planning and Zoning, Inland and Wetland Conservation Commission, Economic Development Commission, with the request report on possible permits and all problems within the given proposal. So that's where I kind of added, trying to bring them into the loop here a little bit, because that, definitely is something that needs to be. Under 3, I slashed out if necessary. I thought that, we should be, if we're writing a document, we should be firm on what our expectations are. I think the words if necessary, time to time, this should be a standing document that, we want a document that people can review and read and understand long after we are not on the council. And it's not, they understand what we were trying to achieve. So the less we can be vague, I think the better. I don't know if you want me to keep going, or do you want Westervelt to do some, or I don't want to take up all the time, or do you want me to do a page each time? Whatever is your,
This is fine. I mean, that's what we're here for.
Okay.
We have some good
Okay.
comments. Let's keep them rolling.
Okay. Number 4, I called it the TOPE committee will hold a series of meetings that include the chairs of other land use commissions as ex officio members, along with allowing for public comment as the regular part of the agenda. Again, I keep stressing that we have learned that we need public input, and I liked some of the comments tonight that reference that. And I'm going to be adding some notes in here, making sure we're bringing around the people in the community or the area that any of these property issues or concerns come up that directly affect the people in that area. At the TOPE committee's direction, they will vote to conclude the meeting, coordinate with the town staff to compose a report, and then submit that report and a recommendation. And then it's basically what was already on the draft there. So I won't read what is already on there, just for time's sake. Sorry, I have an animal that's jumping in my way. Number 5, It basically, as written, says the town council will hold a public hearing. And then hearing two, and I said to present the TOPE committee's report, gather further citizens' input. And it just goes on with their own writing, and I just added at the end, acting on the combined TOPE committee and staff recommendation. I just changed a little bit of wording there. I haven't added anything new through 6 and 7, and it moves down to disposition of town-owned property process. Number 1, it says if the town council takes official action to proceed with a property sale lease, the town staff will create a draft request for proposals RFP for sale property utilizing any direction received from the, and this is where I added TOPE committee and town council. I slashed out and will provide a copy to the council, because I reworded it here and said a copy will be provided to the council, planning and zoning commission and RTM to review and comment prior to the release. So thinking, really involving people at a much earlier phase. I put lines through, again, the RFP will be shared with planning and zoning, because I kind of just reworded that whole sentence. Then in black here, it goes on to write, the RFP will include language to inform respondents of the, and this is where I add in the preferred permitters, regular restrictions and restrictions of anticipated development, along with, and then it keeps going with the required to fulfill. I'm still kind of working on that. I'm still not sure how I want that to exactly write, but again, just kind of, taking a dive at this, at its first glance or second glance here. Pretty much the rest of the wording was still in there. On number 2, I basically just added, they have here, submit proposals shall be reviewed by the property sale review, or I call it the PSR. The committee is made up of relevant town staff, 2 representatives of the town council, 2 representatives of the RTM, representative Economic Development Commission, a representative of the Conservation Commission. This is where, again, if you see my trend here, I'm finding that we're not bringing folks around the table at an earlier phase. And, I have made a recommendation even that has not come before the council as of yet, where I was asking that the council and the P&Z, we meet on the same night. Last night was a great example. I have to go back and watch a whole meeting to catch up, so I know exactly where the town pulse is. And it's a lot of work to do that. So more transparency at the beginning phase would help not only the councilors, but other elected bodies, as well as the P&Z, inlands and wetlands. So that's what I'm trying to achieve here. And I'm open to suggestions on wording if you guys have any to help me kind of achieve that goal. So moving on here, commission representative of the Planning and Zoning Commission, with such members being selected by the town councilor. I clashed out the mayor, I think the town council. And it was interesting. I think someone tonight spoke about that as well a little bit. Personnel Appointments Committee, and appointed by a vote of the whole town council, kind of like we just do personnel appointments and such, we all vote on it. All subsequent PSR committee meetings shall be open to the public. The review process will include, that's all their stuff. So the paragraph that I added on here is the PSR committee will compile a report of all RFP respondents that will include their full application packages. Another thing that I hadn't seen, background checks, credit checks, and interviews transcripts. The PSR committee may, at its discretion, choose to include consensus recommendations, individual recommendations, or no recommendations at all. Again, just first kind of stab at this, kind of just piecing together. And I don't know, Councilor McBride, I don't know, for time's sake, if you want me to keep going, or I don't want to hog up all the.
It looks like you just have the last on 3 and 4. You might as well just wrap it up, because you had some
Yeah,
comments.
so on sure. Yeah, because I actually skipped that whole section. I haven't really touched. So it's 3, I just slashed the word the and made any recommendations issued by the property sale PSR will be forwarded by. I kind of skipped over 4, 5, 6, and 7, and I dropped down to number 3 and 4 under disposition of non-town owned property. Under 3, it reads, I just added a comma, open to the public, comma, include the opportunity for public comment to be subject to all regular FOI requirements. Again, just adding that public comment and that public input part that's missing throughout the document. Number 4, they have the review process will include an extensive internet search of responding companies and its principals and companies that are invited to continue the process beyond the first interview. This is where I added, to the max extent allowable as defined by Part 1A of this sections, the town will follow the same property evaluation and property sale review process as described in the previous section for town-owned property. To the maximum extent possible, this process should include both the TOPE and PSR committees, discussions and deliberations with the public input, as it all is integral part of the creation of the RFP that establishes a set preferred parameters, regulatory restrictions for any anticipated development. To the maximum extent possible, both the TOPE and the PSR committee will each produce a report that includes all RFP respondents, full application packages, background checks, credit checks, interview transcripts, and both the TOPE and the PSR committee may at their discretion choose to include a consensus recommendations, individual recommendations, or no recommendations at all. Again, just notes that I have been taken, and I have more stuff that I haven't typed into this yet. But
Okay, no, that's a great start. Thanks for those comments. We keep on making progress every day, every few days. We'll get to where we have to go. So thank you for that. Councilor Westmoreland, do you have any comments on the document at this time? Oh, I think we lost Councilor Westervelt. I'm not sure when he fell off, but he fell off. I'll have to look back on that. All right, so that was good. Thanks for those comments, Councilor Bordelon. The only other item that I wanted to discuss, and I don't know if we need to get into detail now, but we discussed the committee makeup and how we're going to move forward. I don't think at this point, I think we're still putting stuff together, but if you have any thoughts on the committee makeup and how large it should be, I know we touched upon it at our first meeting, thinking it should be a couple of residents. I'm just not sure how many committee members it needs to be. I think I think what's most important is we're involving the residents on a week-to-week basis whenever we have comments. I'm not sure how large we have to get. So I would be in favor of keeping the committee smaller with a few representatives from the community, but I'm open to all suggestions by the 2 councilors on this committee as well. And I don't think it's something we need to decide this evening, but we should be, determining how we want to move forward with the committee at some point, the next couple of weeks as we prepare this document for final review. So, Councilor Bordelon, it's just you and I at this point. Do you have any other comments at this point?
No, I definitely think it would be great to define how we want to, include, folks. And I mean, and if we do, how do we choose those 2? And I mean, then folks might say, is there enough district representation? You know what I mean? So we might want to think about that because we're thinking about town-wide RFP process. So yeah, no, I think we should at some point, decide. I agree. We don't want to make it too large because then you're trying to coordinate 6-10 people to all meet, and it can slow down the process. But I do think that we do need to have some key stakeholders and have some public input folks that represent on here. But I also think there's a way that we can invite people in waves, so they don't have to always be at every meeting. There might be a way that we could incorporate this for time's sake too, where if we're discussing a certain section or something, you know what I mean, there might be key stakeholders that we might want to invite in that have or public folks that we would allow to speak during that time or sit on the committee for that. So I'm open to all ends, and whatever you guys think, we can work through that. So I think it'd be great to at least get some type of draft up, because then we're going to be spending a lot of time taking in the input from everyone else onto this. But the quicker we get all of our stuff in one area, not to say that it's going to be finalized, but we can work and tweak it. But then we can focus on all the new stuff that we're getting from everybody else too, and start to move around that document. So I'm pretty excited to get the work going, and I think we've done a lot of work already, and I'm excited for the transparency and open dialogue, and I think we're going to make some great process. So thanks.
Good. Well, I think we will. We're setting a goal for July 6th to get a document out to the public that has our comments incorporated, so we'll get that done and we'll keep the ball rolling. So I don't have anything else this evening, Counselor Boyle. I'm not sure if you do.
No, I do not have anything else. I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, thank you for that motion. I'll second the motion. I don't think there's any discussion. All in favor of the motion to adjourn?
Aye.
Okay, aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Thank you, Counselor Bordelon. Thank you those who participated, and look forward to seeing everyone in a few weeks.
And
Thanks for your-
anyone that has comments, just please email any of your suggestions. It would be great.
Yeah, the more the better.
Yes.
Great. Thank you again. Take care.